Thank you for joining us tonight for this video. Tonight we're going to be looking at the subject of knowing if we can afford to work on a particular watch to see if we can work on it and still make a profit. Let's go ahead and open up this envelope. We're going to pretend that this is from a customer and that we got it in the mail. Actually, I did get it in the mail and I did buy it from somebody, but I'm not sending it back to them. I'm just going to work on it myself and either keep it or maybe list it on eBay. Okay, so let's just, we have a note in here because this is the type of thing as a watch repair, the type of note you're going to get. And this is just an example. This isn't real. This is an example, a type of letter you might get. To our store, Clock Arms Classics, please don't spend more than $50 on this watch. I would like for it to run non-stop for 12 hours or something like that. Okay, when we get a note like that in the mail, we have to realize that we have to make a living. Watchmakers or watch repair people do. And we're not, as much as we may like a person, we're not in the business of charity. So we can't spend, hours and hours working on a watch and have the customer only want to give us $50. So we have to assess the watch. Okay, it's an Omega. It starts and stops. It's not frozen up. It's not running particularly well. Okay, let me see if I can get this. Oh, okay. This type of movement's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if the camera can get that or not. But we notice here that it's an automatic, and this caliber doesn't go clear around the watch. It goes back and forth like that. Okay. The newer automatic watches go round and round and round. This watch just goes from that point to that point. It's called a, let me go ahead and write this information down. So it's an Omega Seamaster, and it's a bumper automatic watch is what they call that, bumper automatic. Okay, let's go ahead and look some more at this watch here. Okay, 17 joules. So we'll write that down. And then the serial number starts off with 125. And then I happen to remember that 125 is the start of the 1950s, and if it's 115 or 1 something, and that's the last of the 40s. So this is a year 1950 watch. All you have to do, it's real easy. Can the camera get that little number there? Okay, so it's kind of hard to get that. We're not professional photographers. We just work on watches, so we do the very best we can with our videos. But anyway, that number, what you can do with that number is just write it down, and then there's web pages that you can go into on the internet, obviously, and just look up Omega numbers, and then or serial numbers, Omega serial numbers, and they'll pinpoint that number for you. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look for the movement number. Okay, here it is. Gotta gently move that caliper over. I should have. Kind of bear with me. I try to remember where that. Using some Rotico here. Okay. Okay, it's a 3-4-2 movement. Alright. So when we begin to work on a watch, this is the information that we're looking for. We're looking for what the watch is. We're trying to figure out what kind of movement it has. We realize it has 17 joules. We realize it's about 1950, and then it has the 342 movement. So these are the basic pieces of information we know before we even begin to work on a watch. So let's see what we have here. Okay, so the movement's not froze up, which is a good thing. The balance. Okay, it seems to be moving. Okay. As many of you know, I use a pencil, plastics pencil with lead. Lead is a natural lubricant, and also the plastic it never chips off. So I have a video about that. It seems to be starting and stopping. Okay, then what I did was on the crown I turned the crown a little bit more. Here we have the hairspring and all this stuff, and it's moving. Was moving fine when I turned the crown. Now let me try to explain this as quickly as I can and as clearly as I can. And I did this in a previous video. But this is an automatic watch, but it can also be wound with the crown. In a lot of new watches, new automatic watches, you can't do that. In a recent Seiko watch that we were looking at as a new watch review, we were looking at how on that particular watch you couldn't hand wind it. On this old Omega, you could either hand wind it or it could automatically wind by the movement of a man's wrist. So what this tells me right off is that when I turn that crown and then it starts up like that, what that tells me is if we're real lucky that well, first of all, it is overwound. I can tell that right off. What we'll do is we're going to release the click, and we're going to let some pressure off of the mainspring, and we hope that it will run. When you're working on watches for customers, you have to diagnose the best of your ability what the problem is. We don't want to spend an hour and a half or 2 hours going through the complete movement of the watch to find out what the problem is right on the other side of the watch, near the on the other side closest to the dial. We have to make an assessment of it in a reasonable amount of time, or else we'll spend 9 hours, and at the end of the day we may not even make $50 because we might spend $50 in parts. So when we get notes in the mail like this, if we want to, we can be, a nice person and go ahead and lubricate the watch and clean it up to some extent and do all that. But what we have to do is, what I would suggest that person do, is realize that you have to make a living. In order to get this watch to running decently, it'll take, if a person is lucky, probably 2 hours. And then you don't know what kind of problems you're going to get into when you start taking it apart just a little bit. There might be some corrosion issues. There might be all sorts of problems. There might be something broken in. When we're taking it apart, we might accidentally break a jewel. We might accidentally lose a screw. There's all sorts of problems. So we can, when we get that type of that letter from a very nice person, probably, what we need to do is we just need to send, what I would suggest is sending the watch back to that person, because I can see in this watch that there's a little bit of dust in there. When I was moving this caliber back and forth, I can feel just a tad bit of resistance that shouldn't be there. And I'm afraid that if I get into this watch, I'm going to end up spending 3 or 4 hours on it. So what we do is we can send the watch back, or we can have somebody call the customer back and say that we can't work on it. It's very sorry, but we can't work on it for $50. I don't like to make those phone calls myself, because I'll be on the phone for 2 or 3 hours, and by the time I spend 2 or 3 hours on the phone, I could have fixed the watch. So have somebody that you work with, or somebody, very nicely call the customer and say that we're unable to work on their watch. We appreciate them, and we appreciate them wanting us to look at their watch, but we're not able to look at it. Then we just send it right back. I hope this video has been helpful, because one problem that watchmakers or watch repair people make is that we become too generous with our time. We can almost become a charity, where all the people at church or other people say, well, such and such person is a watch repair person, so they almost think that we can take up our whole week looking at watches for free or at very low money. When you're in this hobby, or you're doing it for a living, we have to be good. We have to be fair to ourselves. We have to provide for our families. And if we're trying to make, say, $35 an hour, we can't use up that time on a watch for $50. It'll take 2, 3, 4 hours, and that's if nothing goes wrong. If you lose one little screw, you spend 20 minutes looking for it, or you have to go digging for another one. It's just a big pain. So I hope this video has been helpful, and in our next video we're going to be looking a little bit more at this watch. Well, thank you for watching.